Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Today the recitation is the second pauri of Tithi Gauri Mahalla Panjwa, the passage of the lunar calendar and Gurmat lessons for us. The recitation first. Slok Karau Bandana Anik Vaar Saran Parau Har Rai Param Katiye Nanak Sad Sange Dutiya Pao Mitai Pauri Dutiya Durmat Dur Kar Gur Seva Kar Neet Ram Ratan Man Tan Basai Taj Kam Krodh Lobh Meet Maran Mite Jeevan Mile Bin Sahaj Sagal Kalesh Aap Tajo Govind Pajo Pao Bhagat Parvesh Labh Mile Tota Hirai Har Dargah Pativant Ram Naam Tan Sanchvai Sach Sah Bhagavant Uthat Baithat Har Pajo Sadhu Sang Preet Nanak Durmat Chut Gai Par Brahm Basai Cheet. So in the Salok, Karau Bandana Anik Vaar, Bandana, salutations, worship. Karau Bandana in Anik Vaar, again and again. Sarana Parau Har Rai, seek the refuge of the Har Self. And in the company of enlightened beings, sadhasang, free the mind from the delusion of the ego. Paramakatiya, Nanak sadhasang, in sadhasang, with the sad, dutiya pao mitai. So param and dutiya pao are concepts that we should bear in mind, because the Guru is telling us to free ourselves of param. Param literally means a delusion, to be deluded about something. And in Gurmat, the delusion is that of the ego. Haume rog param katiya. So it is haume that is the delusion, especially in its relation to Maya, because it is Maya. Sabde haume mariye Maya ka param jai. So what is happening here is that the ego is our solidified sense of self, and it fails to see its true formless essence, the self, the unbounded self, which informs everything. And so it doesn't allow our authentic nature to express itself. That's the param. The notion, the idea that the self has, that I'm a separate center of experience. That is precisely that creates what the Guru calls dutiya pao, the feeling of separateness. Dutiya is of course two, and this is what happens. The ego creates two. It becomes the subject, everything else becomes the object. And so it loses that sense of oneness. So with sadhasang, free the mind from that delusion. Experience that oneness with the self. So the Guru is advising us, let us seek the refuge of the Har Self and place ourselves in its care. Simply that means to look at life through that perspective. And then in the pauri, it is the second day of the lunar cycle called Dutiya. So the lesson is also Dutiya Pav, to get over the sense of separateness, of the other. So the Guru says, seek the tutelage of the Gur Enlightener. Gur Seva Kar Nit. Nit means every day, all the time, constantly. So seek the tutelage, be guided by the Gur at all times. And in that way, free yourself from ego-conditioned thinking. Durmat, dur kar. So Durmat here stands in opposition to Gurmat. Durmat means inferior, wicked, if you will, ignorance, folly, and it traps the mind. It misleads the mind. That's the ego again at work, you see. So the Guru is saying, Durmat dur kar. Free yourself, give it up. And he goes on to explain to us some of what is involved in doing that. Control your desires. Control your anger and greed. Taj kam krodh lobh mit. Meet. He's addressing the meet. The meet here is the mind. The friend that he's addressing is the mind. Taj kam krodh lobh meet. Ram ratan man tan base. When you do that, when you control your desires and you control your anger and greed, in other words, when the turbulence of the passions calms down, the mind is an ocean of consciousness, right? But there is turbulence on the surface, and that prevents you from seeing the bottom. But when the waves calm down and the turbulence dies, then you actually see yourself reflected in that ocean of consciousness. And that's what the Guru is saying. Ram ratan man tan basai. You will discover the jewel of self-knowledge, Ram, the self, present within the body-mind, because you'll be able to see past the turbulence, the storm. And that is the conditioned mind dying. When the conditioned mind dies, its inner strife ends, and the mind then emerges with renewed vitality of devotion, namely to the self. Maran mita, jivan mile, you find life, which means you're revitalized. Bin se sagal kales, your inner strife departs. So deconditioning of the mind is what is needed. You see, our haume is nothing more than the conditioning of our mind. It is how we've been trained to see ourselves in relation to others. It is an abstraction, a social abstraction. And so we have a biological DNA and we have a cultural DNA layered on top of it. And what we have to be able to do is rise above both of these. So the Guru is saying, give up the ego, therefore, and allow loving devotion to come through. Be guided by the Guru Enlightener. The Guru goes on to say that those who gather the wealth of self-knowledge, Ramanam, are truly wealthy and fulfilled. Ramanam Tana Sancha, gather, Sach Saha, traders, merchants, Bhagavant, those whose aspirations are complete, fulfilled in all dimensions of life. They are no longer disadvantaged by the ego. Indeed, they earn an honorable admission to the domain of the self. Labha mile, you earn a profit. Tota hire, your disadvantages you get rid of. Har dargah pativanta, har dargah, to that threshold of higher consciousness. You begin to blend with the higher consciousness. So you're actually acting and living life from a altogether different perspective. You have evolved, in other words, to a higher level. So you see, it is all about evolving. We are not done yet. Mankind and all of us are in the process of evolving. Jin manaste devte kiye. We have to become devatas from being just human. So this is an opportunity. That is why we are being coaxed by the Guru, constantly reminding us that the ego, although that is the summit of your consciousness for now, you have to go beyond it. So be guided by the good enlightener and always be in a state of devotion to the self. Uthat baithat har bhajai sadhu sang parit. This is how the egoic mind is transformed into self-awareness. Nanak durmat chut gayi, par brahma base chit. Devotion. Devotion, longing, love, these are the elements required. And remember, there is a great deal of imagination also that has to come into play, because we don't know the self. So we have to make a quantum leap, and that quantum leap is to trust the Guru in guiding us across the abyss of the ego. On that note, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.